Welcome to Evolving the Conversation. I am Melissa DeJoseph, and I'm here with Nick DeAngelis. I was just reading your name, deciding if I should call you Nick or Nicholas, but since you had Nick up on the screen, that's what I went with.
Uh,
And today we will be talking about creating balance in our lives. That's actually like one of my missions, I think.
yeah, yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Me too.
I actually shouldn't say I think it is. Let's just be honest here.
Creating balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I went on a nature walk earlier today, just around town, and there was a festival in the library court. And then they have this sort of like pagoda type thing, and they had a Japanese theme sort of festival, and they had tea ceremonies there. And some drums. It was really awesome. I'm gonna actually have a shameless Instagram plug. Check out my Instagram if you'd like to watch it. Now, actually, you know what? I gotta look up my Instagram. My Nick or Nicholas on there.
Mm,
Uh, love all my nicknames.
that's good to know.
Let's see here.
It's good to share with
Nicholas
everybody.
DeAngelis. But on here I have Nick DeAngelis. Either one. But yeah, I noticed for me that has definitely balanced me, and I've even made a contact there. Actually we could talk about
On your
maybe
nature walk to the
off the air.
library.
Yeah. I talked to this person that used to be a member at a country club that I worked at, and yeah, he I don't know, he just seemed like an interesting dude. I'd asked
Mm.
him I asked him if he'd ever like to be on a podcast, and I said I would talk with you about it, that you're my co-host. And well, yeah, but um yeah, that was definitely balancing for me. And then just walking around town and really just paying attention to the trees and just like focusing on the beauty of the town, even though sometimes I could be maybe a Debbie Downer about this town, but that was the balancing aspect of it.
Yeah, well, I think there's the positive and the negative in everything. What does balance actually mean to you? What
Oh,
are you balancing?
definition of balance. Being in equilibrium with things,
With what?
that
With
are going
things.
on in your life. Yeah, being in harmony with the things that are going on in your life.
Yeah, I think of it as like creating balance inside yourself, inside of myself. And then that translates to outside because the way I see it, the only thing that I really can control is what's happening inside of me. And then in that way, I am the most balanced that I could be in my relationship to the things that I'm in relationship with, to the things and the people that I'm in relationship with.
I like that. It sounds like this Buddhist philosophy that I heard this one Buddhist monk talk about pretty much right before I tried to go to sleep last night. And yeah, he's talking about to save other people is to save yourself, and to save yourself is to save other people. I resonated with that.
Yeah, I just heard my Peloton instructor talking about that today on the ride. She's like, you do it for yourself because you doing it inspires and supports and uplifts and is an example to everyone around you.
Some sage
And
wisdom.
I mean, I know we could all try to, want people in our lives to be better, do better, be different, but ultimately, I don't think that's a tactic that really works.
The Peloton.
No, trying to create the balance by changing the other person or thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I definitely can see. through the flaws that I've had when trying to change other people, particularly in my family when they're just not willing to change. And just what I think is doing the good thing is just taking your space and giving them theirs. And that's balancing for me, realizing those things.
Well, that makes sense. I think too of balancing. So I think inside myself, I think of it in like in different domains. So I think of consciousness, I think of balancing, the brain and the body and the heart. And then I think of like the different aspects of the self or the person. So like all the different kinds of um yeah, just like the dimensions of a person and just having all of those kind of be in balance. So, not overly focusing on one thing, one aspect, just let's say, for example, like physical health, and then neglecting mental health and emotional health or, you know, yeah. So I think also inside the person, there's different ways to look at the balance as well.
That's interesting that you have um, those different aspects of it, and can, conceive of it that way. It's sort of first I've heard about that. Seems unique and like that everyone can use it. I enjoy thinking about that actually. I do have a question actually. So
Yeah.
for balance, right? Often I think about when I go and I train balance and I go snowboarding, and sometimes uh sometimes I have felt like that has made me go out of balance. And I hit my head on the ground pretty hard. And I had a helmet on, but it definitely rung my bell. And I saw like a white flash, and I heard ringing in my ears, and then instant neck pain.
Mm.
And I don't know if that was a concussion or not. And then I went to jujitsu about 2 days after that, and just kind of got like tripped up really, and my forehead, pretty much I fell on my forehead from like a standing position. So, and maybe like with somebody's kind of body weight a little bit on me too. From what I remember, I was standing up and they were wrapping their legs around me to try to bring me down, and then I just remember hitting the floor. But same thing, then flash of light, and then like ringing in my ears, instant neck pain, and then I had to stop um, for at least that round. But yeah, so that was something that I have found that I was out of imbalance with. Perhaps I shouldn't have went to jujitsu that night if I just had that snowboarding accident a few days
Mm.
earlier.
Yeah. Was there a question in there? That makes
Yeah,
sense.
the
Like
question
you were
the
overdoing it.
question was, I remember, well, I don't know, you probably not, you probably can't diagnose, but
Oh,
I don't know, maybe you can, but um, oh, I remember I said something about my accident before that I had, and you mentioned that if I had concussions, that I should go and perhaps seek out speech therapy or
oh
something along
yeah,
those lines.
yeah.
Mm.
So a speech therapist could help with people that have concussions because a concussion could lead to well, because it's a very mild traumatic. I don't know if it's considered a traumatic brain injury, but it's like a form of a traumatic brain injury. So a speech therapist could help with those things because I mean, depending on your specialty, you're educated about brain, the brain functions and cognitive functions, which are really oftentimes the things that are affected by concussion. So, like your ability to focus, concentrate, have memory, kind of those metacognitive skills, or Another word you might hear these called is the executive functions. So impulse control, paying attention, planning, organizing, executing, all those kinds of thinking about thinking, or thinking about, you know, being a person in the world and having to do all the things skills. That's how I know about concussions, because I did work, well, I'm a speech therapist, and I did actually work in an acute rehab with brain injuries for a while.
Wow.
And now too, as working with young children, I actually know a lot about executive functioning skills.
Yeah, yeah. Perhaps I would consider going to one. Yeah, with
What
health
kind of
insurance, but
problems are you noticing?
well, I would say neck pain for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's because of like how I landed. And I have been noticing, um, I guess certain words, I don't know, I mispronunciate or pronounced.
Pronunciate. Yeah, or
Yeah, I
mispronounce. Yeah, I guess it's
mispronunciated some
mispronounce.
words.
Yeah, you want to say mispronunciate. You threw me off there. I'm blaming you for my mispronunciation. Huh.
Yeah.
I would just try to slow down when you're speaking. Give yourself enough time to let the words come to you, and take advantage of natural pauses in your speech. I think slowing down when you talk is really useful also, just for being more present with yourself, and then your environment, and then the person you're in conversation with. If you're not rushing through things, then you could be taking in a lot more stuff, and just be more mindful of everything, like how you pronounce your words.
It was really wise.
I would
Thanks
try
for
slowing
your
down.
expertise.
What are your other symptoms? I forget if it's symptoms or signs or whatever.
Um, well, the other one that I mentioned before,
The mispronunciation and the neck pain.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the neck pain.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's not
And,
the role of a speech therapist.
no, right. I
That's a
definitely
referral.
have to go to a chiropractor for
Yeah,
that
maybe a
one.
chiropractor.
Yeah, I got the appointment scheduled for that. Hopefully, they accept my insurance.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a smart thing to know beforehand.
Yeah, that's why I called. That's why I called because I didn't want to because I don't know. I don't want to just assume that they didn't and then have a bill that I couldn't comfortably afford
Yeah, yeah.
beforehand. Yeah, they said something like about that um they had to get some kind of clearance with the insurance company, and then the insurance company would determine how many sessions they would cover. But then
Yeah.
they said that the first appointment would be like $67, and that the insurance didn't apply. And so I was like, well, maybe I'm just gonna wait for it to go through, or I could find a better option.
Maybe like
Even
a massage would be helpful also.
I don't know. Maybe
Gets
I was
nerve
thinking about a
pain.
massage, but I went to, it depends what place. I don't
Yeah, I think
know.
you'd have to have a masseuse that you were maybe already working
Yeah.
with, so you know that you trusted them. Or also a physical therapist, I think could be helpful.
Yeah. Somebody that I could say like to just take it easy and not be, I guess, too firm on like rigid muscles and rigid ligaments and things like that. Just like
Yeah,
that, I
maybe.
don't know if that's what I need, but maybe like definitely like you said, like a massage therapist or even like a physical therapist or something like that too.
Yeah. When did
Yeah,
this
might be
happen?
good. About almost 2 weeks ago.
Hmm. Yeah, so it hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
you might have some inflammation too with the pain. I mean, not that I'm a doctor, I'm not trying to like
No,
diagnose
that's
pain.
actually something I need to hear too, because like, they say that sugar and like even like breads and like, I don't know, certain kind of like fatty meats could cause inflammation. And I've been out of balance with that too this past, I would say, week or so. Just something that I need to bring into balance, which is always saying yes to being disciplined, uh, with eating well and eating healthy. I definitely know I need to get back in balance with that and actually need to have definitely some type of cleansing diet. And actually perhaps conduct a sacred shamanic diet with some rose. I've seen some birch tree as well. A combination of both of those. And actually too, maybe even well, actually no. The first time I diet, what is that called? You'd probably know this. Those trees, they grow in Pennsylvania and they grow in the Amazon, and they have like those pink, like
Oh, the Balbisano?
puffy looking. Yeah, the
Balbinsano?
Bobinsano, yeah. That one, the first time I dyed that, I want that to just be its own individual thing.
Mm. Yeah, we have a tree. I saw a tree, one of those not too far from here. I don't know if I ever dieted that, to be honest. Uh,
Hmm.
Whenever I've done the tree diet, I've done two, well, three. There was always multiple trees. And the first time I did it, it was only the second time that I had worked with plant medicine. So I just had no idea what I was doing or what was going on. Louis like, "Do you want to do a diet with me?" I'm like, "Okay." And then, yeah, the next time I did one, I have a list of the trees I dieted. I should look for that.
I've got one that I have dieted so far, and that's the white birch tree.
Hmm.
Yeah. I noticed the last time I went to go visit it that I think I went in too deep when I inserted the knife to harvest its bark. And actually, something interesting? I got a clear, distinct message to never use that tree again for another birch tree dieta. And
Oh,
so
really?
I said, okay, I respect that. And then, yeah, just because, like, I don't know, like I said, I think I went in too deep with the knife. It was my first one. Perhaps
Hmm.
then with the second one, I can do it with more precision and pick another tree.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
just thinking that
interesting.
and some rose would probably go well together. Especially too with I'm pretty sure is a mutual friend of ours who sent me some um roses for my birthday that are like a rose tea.
What was your birthday?
My birthday was this past November. Yeah, it was from this company. Oh, I forget the name of it, but it's a good company. If I don't know, if I find the thing, perhaps I can mention it. But yeah, yeah, and yeah, that is definitely going to be the intention for my next year, to balance.
Hmm. So what else do you do to stay in balance?
Well, I know before when we were talking about this, before we were recording, and nature walks for sure. Just, you know, going out, even if it's for a walk around town and connecting with the town, connecting with the trees around the town, connecting with all the flowers and really all the beautiful things that town has to offer me. Or even, like just going on like a nature trail. And yeah, I went and visited that white birch tree that I was talking about a week ago. And yeah, so those two things definitely intertwine. Staying active, I definitely, like I said, with this neck injury, I really need to, for me, be training balance and getting better at balance and really finding the medicine in balance and to not over not stress myself at all, really, not even just over stress or just not even like under stress or laziness or whatever, just not overdoing anything. um
Yeah, I think for you, like Don't ever worry about being lazy. What's lazy? Who's to say?
Laziness?
What's lazy?
For me, hmm, for me, it would be if I would procrastinate something.
So what's the difference in between procrastination and being lazy? And it doesn't sound like
Um,
that's what you were saying lazy is.
well, I don't know. The difference between procrastination and lazy, maybe that's just uh, word games. I don't know. Perhaps it comes from uh the same impetus, and they're synonyms for one another.
I think they are maybe kind of related. I think lazy is like judgmental, to be honest. I think it has a like a connotation of like there's like, you know, if there's good and bad, lazy's bad. Lazy's not good. I think procrastination could be, I think of it as putting off something until, putting off something. And so then that's where I think maybe it could be like in the Venn diagram of lazy and procrastination, both in the middle, like the middle space is the putting off of something. But I mean, I think procrastination is normally looked at as not good, but I don't necessarily think it would have the same connotation if you called a person lazy versus if you call them a procrastinator.
Mm, mm, yeah, yeah. I think that's really wise. Like if you would like say to somebody, like just call them lazy,
Yeah.
probably won't go over very well as
Yeah.
to reframing that, and saying like, oh, you know, you're just procrastinating.
Yeah. But then
Probably go
the
over
way you're
better.
talking about it, I don't think you're procrastinating.
Yeah.
I mean, at least what we're
And you
talking
said
about
to
right now, I'm not saying you're not a procrastinator. You very well may be one. I don't know.
well, certain things perhaps I've
I mean, I know I
procrastinated.
procrastinate. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, sometimes there's those tasks you don't want to do when you put them off, or maybe you like the pressure. Or I think also, yeah, I mean, there's probably several reasons why people procrastinate. Maybe people procrastinate because they are lazy and they don't want to do these things. I don't know. I just think of lazy as I just personally for myself think it's okay to not want to do things or not want to work hard or be super active, especially depending on what your your kind of like underlying impetus for that is, you know.
Mm, mm, yeah. Reminds me, definitely uh should consider planning holding a ceremony soon to balance emotions.
Balance emotions.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
that's also something you could just do on a, I mean, if you're constantly doing it, that's very helpful.
yeah. And two, even if you you know, plan to hold specific ceremonies specifically for a specific emotion, having that as well as
Yeah.
all the
Oh yeah,
time.
those are helpful for sure. I personally don't, right, just think, well, I mean, I think it's good practice when you do feel emotions to allow yourself to feel them. So then there isn't as much buildup, and then you don't even need that ceremony. I mean, it's a good tool. I think the ceremonies to have them are good, but I also think it's good to just be a conduit for the feelings because that's what they're supposed to be. Well, they're not supposed to be conduits. We're supposed to be the conduits for them, and we're not really supposed to just let them sit and stagnate,
Mm,
right? It's energy and it's just supposed to move. I use the like the TA breathing and the, turning on the body, breathing, and then imagining the earth, And then using the scale that the earth is humongous and I'm, an inconsequential piece of dirt in comparison to the size of the earth. Although I guess if you compared me to a piece of dirt, I'm much bigger. And we're both on the same earth. But yeah, and then just letting the earth take it all away.
Yeah, the total awakening
Yeah.
techniques of using the breath and the feeling. And
Mhm.
I like what you mentioned too about being the conduit. We're the conduits of feeling and getting connected with the feeling of gravity and the way gravity balances you out really all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if it
Yeah.
weren't for gravity, I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
We'd just be floating around.
I don't know
But we're
where I
not.
would be, but not here.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I talked about some of the things that I do to balance. How about you? What are your specific practices
Well,
for
that one
balancing?
practice that I just shared, I mean, that's what I try to do when I notice my feelings or emotions. I think too, trying to tell myself that it's okay to have them and to really support myself in having them. I think, staying out of the story of having them is helpful. But I do think there's like kind of like a line sometimes, right? Where there's like the inner child work you could do with those. I'm like, oh, it makes sense you feel that way. Yeah, that's probably like one practice that I use the most consistently just because, I mean, you're always feeling. And I think, and probably one of the things I've at least been trying to do most consistently is meditating and exercising. And then, what else do I do? Yeah, I feel like um, I go on and off with things. So maybe I'll do one thing for a few weeks and then I'll do something else for a couple of weeks and then something else. So I try to also do some breath work in the morning, even if I just do 5 minutes, although I like to do longer sessions. Recently, I've been breathing and really trying to like feel my heart, like rub that area of my heart while I breathe to really feel it and help it to soften and know it's okay to be open and it doesn't have to shut down and turn away from life.
This just sound like they're really great practices.
Yeah,
Actually, I know some of the practices that you've taught me have really benefited me.
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Some of the breath work. And yeah, even the one last week in the last session that we had together.
Oh, the wall work.
Yeah, the wall work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that one in the shower. Um and that actually having the shower on and doing the wall work in the shower really helped to number one balance me and to ground me and to just really cleanse me in like the truth of feeling like like if you're pushing the pressure of a wall and really what that feels like as going through certain emotional triggers and realizing the whole truth about the situation.
Mm,
Like you said, you were saying something about beyond the story of where those emotions had originated from in the first place.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Good release.
I want to like we'll backtrack, cover a little. There's a couple things to say here. First, I think we should say what wall work even is.
Yes. But I figured you would probably more adept at saying that.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. So
that's
wall work
you.
is a practice that I learned from Dr. Sam Rader. And it is a practice where, I mean, I think it's a practice that's helpful for releasing anger. And we can have anger that we're feeling like in the moment, like we just kind of talked about, and where we need to be a conduit and let that anger go. But then we also have unconscious anger that, I mean, we have, I think, all kinds of unconscious feelings and sensations and emotions that are stuck in the body because, you know, for whatever reason it wasn't appropriate to have that response, and so we didn't, and so they get stuck in the body. And then the anger we're talking about is usually like anger from childhood where, you know, we didn't get our way or things were unfair and we just couldn't express that. It became impotent anger, you know, anger that had no way of being effective. And so we just held it in. So that the wall work's really helpful for releasing that anger. And it's literally you stand up against a wall and you want to look at it like you're really fierce and you really want to like feel your core inside of you. You know, we have this like inner column. I mean, some people call it like the chakras. I know like in shamanism, it's like your shungoi, how you say? Is that how you say? Like your inner
Shingon,
core.
Shingon.
And it's where you find like your, I mean, I think of it as like your, you know, like your spine, that central column,
I also heard it put another way too,
like your
and I think
alignment.
you would know this. The centrifuge of light, is that another
No,
way
I
of
mean, I
describing
don't see
that?
why not.
I thought that was something in the Qigong sessions that we were a part of.
Oh, really?
Uh,
Oh, maybe.
yeah, that the teacher Shiri described.
Yeah, I mean, it all relates to the same thing. And
Mm,
so then you're
mhm.
pressing up against the wall, and it's kind of like, no, like really finding that no inside of you that like that anger wanted to say no to. And it's also a practice for firming up, kind of like knowing what that no is, and also like what your boundaries are. And, you know, some people, so this is kind of, this relates to Dr. Sam's work. So one of the coping styles that, um, one of the coping styles is it's called symbiotic, where you don't really, you're kind of like diffuse inside. You don't have the ability to speak up for yourself. You kind of just go along with what other people want or think or say, and you have a hard time speaking your own truth. So the wall work's really helpful for that too, to kind of like firm up. And again, it's that kind of that core, it's that like strength inside of you to like, this is me, this is myself, this is like what's true for me, this is, you know, what I believe in, this is what I have to say. So it's helpful in those practices. So that's the wall work.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
noticed that too. It
yeah,
was really helpful at letting go of childhood anger and really just a release of something that I've held on to for a long time
yeah,
and that I was ready to let go of. And it definitely, yeah, I noticed that, as you said, firms you up to your no. And, you know, when you're saying no to things that legitimately are bad for you, well, then really that's something that has a beneficial outcome. And
yeah,
you know, as you said, like with you know, perhaps like some childhood anger that was caused by things being not fair and you not getting your own way. And um yeah, having that released through the wall technique, that I found something beneficial for just for my day to day, really. It's like um
yeah,
yeah, just knowing that you know, people are people and yeah, do the
yeah.
best you can to not shed your anger on them.
Yeah, well, right. When you shed your anger on other people, then it becomes aggression. And that's, I mean, that's why we have to take care of our own feelings, right? So we don't project them onto people. So you're not right dousing other people with that anger and frustration. I mean, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good in your body. It doesn't feel good when you give it to anyone else. But I did want to say something. You were saying, you know, about the story. Um, you know, I think story related, especially when we're thinking about these things that happen in childhood, like they did have an origin. You know, when I was saying
Mhm.
about the story, and you know, it's helpful to know the origin. Dr. Sam says, well, we know the beginning, we know it could also have an end. You don't have to know where it comes from, but it's helpful. Um, so in that, there's like a story, you know. So when I was talking about the story, it's more like when you're feeling something in the moment instead of like being in the head of trying to figure it out, trying to solve it. Where did this come from? I mean, even though we're saying like, where did it come from? You know, what can I do about it? I did this and that, and maybe it's this, and maybe it's that. Like, then you get tripped up in it, and you're like, you're feeling it, feeling it, feeling it, and that thinking is making the feeling go like, yeah, instead of feeling it and letting it go and just staying out of the mind, because it's not the mind's or the brain's job to process it. It's the body's job. So when the brain is spinning in that, the job's not getting done and the energy is just like still stuck there. So that's kind of what I meant by story. Not that you can't have the story of what happened to you when you were a child, because I think that's very valid and important.
Yes, yes, I agree. And yeah, thanks for
But then also like let
differentiating.
it go with the wall work. You know, I mean, we can't stew in that either, right?
Yeah, perhaps it's letting go of uh the emotion um that is around the story, and so, or even caused by the story too. And so yeah, I noticed it helped me just relate to story, um, where it's not so much of a trigger for me. Because like when you think about a story, you're constantly telling yourself a story, you know, about who you were and who you are now, and you know, you're really your whole life. And yeah, I see what you mean too about like it being important to for those things to remain.
It's
And
interesting
yeah,
now that you're saying it. It's almost like a paradox, right? Like, because you at one point have to let it go so you could be who you want to be now and do what you want to do, but also, you
yeah, I
know,
know I think about it
that
as
is how
like
you got here.
yeah,
And there's some
yeah,
validity
and
in
their
like
stories
that,
are
and not
important.
necessarily like nitpicking every little thing about it, but knowing what's happening now. Like, I guess it's almost like the, you know, maybe like the map,
Mm, yeah,
where it doesn't
something like a
necessarily
map,
matter so much because it's still kind of like, where am I now and where do I want to go? But yet,
but not allowing the story to have an emotional trigger in you when you become aware of, well, for me anyway, when I became aware of certain angers that I've had around really have been raised by two alcoholics. I mean, that's something that I thought of as pretty traumatic.
yeah,
And
it's really traumatic.
yeah, yeah, that was something I noticed with the wall work, that it helped me to just understand my mother and father as people.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, and realize they were just coping with something. I'm sure I've had, you know, instances before where I turned to alcohol for mm, coping mechanisms. And I was lucky enough to realize too, like looking at it, how I felt, and by drinking 3 days a week, when looking at how my parents, when they would abuse it, you know, multiple days a week, and um, seeing that's just not even good for the body, and like having that information to be able to decide to really not drink that many days a week anymore. Because for me, I would consider that to be something out of balance.
Mm,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was just like training myself to say no to alcohol any more than once a week, if that. I like going months though without it.
Mm. I have almost a yearly drink, but I think I even quit that. It doesn't agree with me.
Yeah, I notice I'm such a lightweight anymore. 3 beers that I had this past Friday gave me a headache in the morning.
Mm, yeah, I don't like feeling hungover.
No, no. So I'm still working at bringing that uh to balance, even though it was like 3 drinks 1 day a week. The week before that, I had 2 beers on a Sunday. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think
not
balance means
like,
elimination. And
oh
also,
yeah,
like, things
true.
work for you until they don't anymore. I don't think our coping styles, whether it's formal, like we're talking about Dr. Sam's coping styles, or just having some drinks, at a certain point in time, they served us. And especially the things that we picked up when we were younger. I mean, a lot of it was at that age, it feels like life or death. I mean, it essentially is, right? I mean, you learn that you have to adapt really quick to those people that are caring for you, no matter what that capacity is. You can't do it for yourself.
Very true.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we just have to be really forgiving, even though I'm in the process of understanding forgiveness in a different way. But yeah, I mean, I guess forgiving, or just gentle with ourselves and the people around us, gentle with the ways that we were. And
I
now that we
resonate with what
know
you just said.
more and, know better, can do things differently, make different kinds of changes.
I certainly resonate with what you just said about how the meaning of forgiveness has changed for me. The definition I've had around forgiveness certainly uh, has changed, and and yeah, and
Also,
just working on it, working on forgiveness. I think it's just a lot of work, and I think
mm,
it's work that it's always worth it.
yeah, definitely always worth it. I mean, I use
For
God as a
yourself with it.
resource for forgiveness because I don't think God even needs to forgive anybody or anything because God loves everything.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
that's a lie that we ever needed God's forgiveness. But I do think it's a useful tool for, being a human being and, some of the contexts we just talked about, right? Forgiving the past, being okay with the way
sure.
you were and the way other people were, or forgiving
Yeah,
people in the present and things
giving
in the
love to
present.
God.
Hmm?
You mentioned that in the eyes of God, that there was nothing to forgive in the first place.
Nothing. It's
I'm just
yeah.
just I don't know, shouting out some love to God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Feels
Yeah,
good to love God.
for sure. No, that was balancing.
Yeah, I guess forgiveness can be a balancing thing, right?
Yeah. What I find is a practice that I do for balancing is imagining each individual color of the rainbow and the whole rainbow. And
Mm.
even too, I like to imagine certain types of light, like gold light and silver light. And then I also like imagining actual things that are all those colors. Those are fun practices. I love those practices.
An imagination practice.
Yeah. Yeah. The imagination practices and expanding the imagination.
Yeah, I just learned these practices that are helpful for imagination, and they involve not just like the visual imagination, but like full body, really incorporating all of your senses into your imagination. And
Mhm.
so I'll give you a very
Yes, please.
abbreviated, I don't know what
Version.
the word there is, description of the practice. But when I learned it, it was something like, imagine that you have an orange in your hand, and then you want to think about, like, what does this orange feel like? How big is it? Is it one of those little clementines or mandarins that you could just rip the skin off of really easily and are kind of light? Or is it a big
Navel.
navel orange? What
Mm,
does it feel like in your
yeah.
hands? What's the texture of the skin? How hot or cold is the skin? Was it sitting on the dashboard in your car in the summertime? Or did you just take it out of the refrigerator? Then you can bring the orange up to your nose and smell it. And what does it smell like? Does it smell like the heat of your car if it was sitting in your car? Or does it smell fresh and sweet like an orange and tangy?
Citrus.
And then you could imagine where you are as you're, holding your orange, feeling the weight in its hands and smelling its smell. You know, are you outside and it's really hot and you're really wanting to eat this orange because you did just take it out of the refrigerator and it would probably feel so refreshing, the flavor bursting in your mouth. Yeah. And then, I mean, you can imagine all of the things associated with that, like what happened, like when it was getting picked and who in the grocery store like handled this orange. So then that way you incorporate all of your, like all of your physical senses into
That's,
your imagination.
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'd like to add on to that too.
Hmm.
You just inspired a practice for me. Actually would like to add on to that too. And that was pretty cool. But
Oh, what are
perhaps
you going to
add
add
on
on
a
to
bit.
it? Yeah, I mean, that's really quick. When I did it, we did it for quite a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like adding on once you're done with the orange to return to the blank space and then imagine another fruit, like an apple. And then, go through those types of activities and those types of imaginations and then return to the blank space.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could add on to things any way you want. That's the beauty of your own creativity.
That one was cool. I always love imagining fruit. I would used to just like imagine imagery of it, but yeah, you took that a step further. I really thought that would to be super helpful.
Yeah. I actually have to do it. I just learned it not too long ago. Well, I learned it, yeah. I learned it not too long ago. I need to take advantage of that one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's see. I think for this week, I need to work on some more wall work.
Wall work this week. Yeah,
I
I
think some
mean,
more
one,
wall work when
you could do it
roommates
all
aren't
the
around.
time. It's helpful for letting go of that anger. I think also too to feel that like instinctual inside of you part, that like like that real animal. I think sometimes that part
Yeah,
of us
yeah,
isn't really acknowledged and honored, and it's kind of like cultured out of us.
yeah. I noticed it's benefit me just releasing all kinds of aggression. Yeah, so special shout out to Dr. Sam.
Yeah,
I
Dr.
know we
Sam
talked a lot.
Rader.
I'd love for her to be a
I'll give
guest.
her a special shout out too. Yeah, she's really
Mm,
special. I've learned so much from her. Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad she shared that with you. I definitely find that to be a useful technique for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's super
Yeah,
balancing, I think, to take care of your emotions and your feelings. I think too,
Yeah,
even just
balancing
saying
emotions.
sometimes like I'm feeling so angry. I mean, depending on how angry you are, sometimes you really have to. I like to take a stuffed animal and beat it against the bed. When I'm that
I
angry,
like to do
that's really
journeys to
what's
the
gonna work.
strata dimension.
In the strata dimension, I mean, I think that's really important, but I feel like the anger has to be processed like physically almost.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't really speak for me. With my experience with the strata dimensions, for me, it has had physical interconnectedness.
Yeah, I definitely think it does. Do you want to speak to what the strata dimension is?
Sure, sure. So for the listeners who are interested in shamanism, modern shamanism particularly, well, listen further. I guess, if not, if there's any listener out there, well, this is where you can stop listening. But okay, so the strata dimension is a dimension that has been created by the creator of modern shamanism, that is a stratified dimension that once you learn the techniques of how to build it for yourself, it stratifies your whole dimension. It stratifies your whole psyche in a dimension of existence that is just your own. So when you go to the strata dimension, you're going to a dimension where it's just your own psyche. And so in the contents of the underworld, which isn't associated uh, with the Christian idea of hell or anything like that. It is a dimension of consciousness that's below that of everyday life, and there's a strata dimension in the underworld as well as the upper world. And the upper world, just as a you know um, descriptive of it, is it is not associated with the Christian concept of heaven. It is a realm of existence that is above that of everyday life. And so there's also a strata dimension, if you go through the whole course, that you learn how to build for yourself and your own psyche. And so that you can go there and you can do certain trainings in the strata dimension to really be able to balance your emotions, as well as training in certain type of things that would just be considered to be of benefit, like learning how to imagine colors to be bouncing in different color rooms, and having that be some type of balancing type of training, part of a regimen. Well, for me, in my own psyche, um, for me, the experience has been like that. Um, so yeah, if there are any modern shamans out there listening to this and you would like to talk to me about your strata dimension experiences. I mean, I know that I've guided a journey for us where I've journeyed to the strata dimension in my own psyche, and open the doorways for you to yours. And um, also, in beyond just the strata dimension itself, um, upper world journeys that also are based around the same thing of going in the imagination and journeying through different types of colored rooms, all types of colors of a rainbow, and then journeying back. And yeah, so okay, but that was the strata dimension, and like I guess long explanation of it.
Yeah, long explanation. So basically, the strata dimension is something you create within your own visionary or shamanic practice that is a safe space for you to enter into your psyche and to be able to make changes with the patterns in your psyche.
Yes, and
I mean,
there
there's different
are
like
ways.
realms to access it.
Yes, that's the short and the long version of it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if you've ever done, well, I know with the journeys that I've conducted with us that I've opened the strata dimensions up. Um, but as for your own practice, have you went and built those spaces
Yes,
in the
I have built
underrealm
them.
as
And
well?
yes, I have done my own personal strata dimension healings. And what I've noticed from those is that they result in lots of other changes in the non like ceremonial or visionary states. So we were talking about like processing the anger in the strata dimension. I feel like you then have to actually like do it in your actual physical body or in your actual like everyday kind of like normal waking conscious experience. That's what's been my experience. With I think a lot of kind of ceremonial experiences is that the thing happens in the ceremony, but then you have to like see how it all plays out in your normal everyday state, which I guess would be maybe integration, kind of. And I think that's what my point was is like you could do it there, but I also think you need to do it here, you know, with the I think it has to happen like on an actual like the level of the actual physical body. Even though it's energetic, it's in the body. The like the
Yeah,
emotions or the release of that energy.
yeah, the combination of both those techniques, the
Yeah.
strata
Yeah.
dimension
I mean,
journey and also the wall work
yeah. I mean,
combined.
yeah, I think it speaks to how, you know, we've talked about this. Sorry, I was just like trying to cut you off, trying to make my point here. You know, how we're like not these one-dimensional things. So there is like the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, the energetic, like all the different realms. And, you know, sometimes the work has to be done on all of those.
Yeah, yeah. And I noticed really for balance to be occurring, you have to be intending it.
Mm.
And
Oh,
even if
yeah.
you come out of balance, even if you come out of balance and you recognize it, that's you getting back into balance.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, you know, balance isn't like kind of like how you talked about it's an equilibrium. Everything's always in constant motion, including, I mean, everything in the body. So there's kind of probably this place where it kind of like fluctuates. Think of it like that, although I'm sure it's not in a line.
Yeah, it's probably like, I don't know, maybe like one of
Like
those
a
computer saver screens.
like a
Yeah,
locus
that
point or
thing.
something around, right? Like there's no just like, you know, center point, but there's just probably like, I don't know, some movement around some kind of centerish area.
Mhm. Can I do an invocation
Hmm?
for us? Okay.
Sure.
All right. I invoke the spirits that help transform my bedroom. I invoke the spirits that serve the highest self, that help transform uh, this room, my bedroom, and all of the things in it. I invoke the spirits that help transform the bedroom, that serve the highest self, that guide me in the mastery of the modern shamanic principles.
Let's
Yeah,
start
and I let
that.
go of all of the spirits that don't serve my highest self.
What was that inspired by?
Uh, just to be focusing on those intentions mentally and to be able to say it out loud. It's good to really stamp in the memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna invoke
And
too
your
the
spirit.
spirit of balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because well, I don't really have a good reason, but I would describe, you know, when you're well balanced with things, that is something ultimately good for yourself. And I want what's good for myself. That's to be balanced.
Yeah. I think it's important. That's what I try to strive for.
Yeah, that's for me something that I'm learning. I'm learning for sure. Sometimes not always the easy way either, especially with the snowboarding and the jujitsu. But
Mm,
they were fun. Perhaps I just got to feel it out and know when to say no.
for sure. That's an important lesson to learn.
Yeah,
Really important. I think too, there's a lot out there in the world that tells you to go, 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 and do, 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 do.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's
And
a lot more acceptable than
I,
mentally
I agree.
acceptable than being like a sloth. But have you actually ever seen a sloth move?
Yeah, they got a zoo.
They're just like
They're
so
awesome. I love
slow
those
and
things.
graceful and like fluid.
Yeah, they're awesome. Whenever I see
Hmm.
pictures, I'm just like, oh, they're so cute.
Yeah. All right, Nick.
So, yeah, all right,
Would be in
Melissa.
balance if
See,
we
our
if we stop right here.
yeah. Well, I can do the outro since you did the intro, if that's okay.
Sure. Do it up.
Well, everyone, thanks for listening. We're still, well, I'm still working on editing, and we're still working on getting guests. Um, Hopefully soon we could have some awesome guests to continue this conversation and evolving it. It's probably like, you know, the most I guess shameless plug for our podcast, the Evolving Conversation podcast, which we had to change the name to because the Giants was just flooded with um in YouTube channels with the same name pretty much. So yeah, so if you're finding this link on some other podcast, you just click the icon button for our page and click the subscribe. And yeah, yeah, this has been a awesome conversation for me. I definitely know, I think, and I know I feel I've found some balance with it. Connecting with a good friend about conversation about balancing. Anyway, yep, that's all I got.
We're done.
Yes.
Bye.